Well, hello guys. Welcome to Revive to Stage, Revive Stronger podcast. This time it's going to be a little bit of a tired one, simply because I was lacking sleep and Steve is in the midst of his depletion week and his peak week protocol already. And this time we simply wanted to talk about the last phase going into the show and the digging phase actually, because I mean, Steve, you have your protocol now set out for yourself, but I know for a fact that having such a clear structure right in front of you can also be sometimes even stressful, especially when it's such a hard protocol such as yours is. And to reiterate what the protocol is, perhaps you can give the audience a quick overview how your peaking strategy is looking like. And then, tell us a little bit about the past days leading into it.
So, totally. And I apologize in advance if I sound a bit tired or anything like that. I'm honestly feeling quite anxious and a bit stressed in general, just about everything, basically. And I think this is very typical for a bodybuilder, really. When you care so much about what you have been working towards, then when it comes, you kind of, it's like a big project at work. It's like, shit, it's coming now. I've put in so much time, work and effort. I hope I pull it off. So I'm kind of getting that anxiety, and there's still a lot to do. So in simplest terms, I think people know of peak weeks is where you deplete. So you deplete yourself of kind of carbohydrates, or you are already depleted because you have been kind of on low carbs and doing lots of cardio and everything, and then you replete. So then you fill up your muscles with glycogen, and you try and fill them up with as much glycogen without overspilling and like having any water in the subcutaneous kind of areas. And normally that's done in 1 week. So my peak week is basically an extended peak week in that it's over 2 weeks. So we have a depletion week and then a repletion week. And essentially it's emptying the bucket of me and then refilling that bucket. And the reason for a harsh depletion and then a harsh repletion is because the aim is to super compensate. So by depleting my muscles even more of glycogen, they should be able to fill up even more with glycogen. So my muscles look even fuller on stage. So it brings out a better physique than I could have possibly had. The added benefit also of the depletion week is the fact that it's very low calorie, especially towards the end. So day one yesterday was 1,900 calories, and it's coming down by about 20 grams of carbs every day to 0 carbohydrates. So by the end on Friday, which is my squat day, which I was just talking to Pascal about how fucking nervous I am for it, and I'm being a psychological pussy, I'll be on just over 1,000 grams of calories, 1,000 calories that day. So long as I stick to my fats and my fat and protein staying level through the week. So,
and this all while you're doing pump work in the gym, right?
So it's actually my overreaching week. So it's not, so it's my overreaching week in addition to ensure I get volume, because I'm expecting I might not be able to beat past performances. Because of the low glycogen. I will be adding in drop sets, which is pump work, just to literally accrue volume. So if things are feeling like absolute shite, and like last week, like this week, I squat, I think it was 135 for like 3 sets of 10, and then down sets. And if next week I can do 135 and I get like 5 reps, I'm going to be like, shit, like I'm going to drop the weight and do lots of like down sets and pump work, just to accrue volume and rid myself of more glycogen. So along with the ridding of glycogen, I'm upregulating water intake. So kind of like water loading that a powerlifter would do. And this is just to upregulate aldosterone and kind of, so I pee out lots, and that will aid in glycogen depletion, because when you're peeing out, you're peeing out carbs as well. And this is basically going to make me incredibly sensitive to carbohydrates as they come in the next week, in which I'll be basically deload training, very little training, lots of posing next week, and like very little cardio, very little steps. Whereas this week, my steps are 20,000 on the weekend, 15,000 during the week. And my cardio is coming up to just over 1,000 calories of lower intensity steady state.
But spread across the week.
Spread across the week. And some of that, depending on how I'm kind of fitting it in, I might make interval-like, because that will help kind of use up more glycogen. I'm not sure how I'm going to... I don't think it matters a great deal, but because intervals use more glycogen for fuel, whereas LISS is generally fat. So I might try and make some of those a bit more hit in style. But with my lifestyle and the way I've got it split up, that might just cause a bit more stress that I'd have to try and think about, that I don't really want to have to think about. So yeah, that's the long and short of it. People envisage empty the bucket, which are my muscles, fill the bucket, which are the muscles, so I look my best on show day.
Yeah, cool. I mean, you've touched on one point which is really important to note, and this is stress. We've talked about stress in the past a couple of times, that it's really important that you have your stress management down, that you also keep your recovery in mind, and also have control over your sleep. But when it comes now to the peak week protocol, I know you were choosing between two protocols. You had a consultation with Jared and Broderick the last week, where you both you three discussed which approach would be the best for you, right? And this brings me just to think about, even though that a peak week protocol could be the perfect one on paper, if that causes you to actually stress out more, that would be actually more detrimental, right? I mean, why did you actually choose the peak week protocol you actually decided for now instead of the other one, which is more conservative?
So, no, it's a really good point, and it's something that might come back potentially to bite me in the arse in future, because this protocol is going to be probably more stressful, at least to me, because the other protocol, for those that are unaware, was basically like what we use generally with our clients, me and Pascal, in which we kind of do a shorter depletion and then replete like on the Wednesday before the show, which is kind of more conservative. It's better for people who need more time losing fat, because you've got a whole week and then half a week to keep losing fat. There's less things that you manipulate. The reason I went with this approach is because this is my first show, so I can experiment. I can get away with it going a bit wrong. I really don't want it to, but I can get away with it going a bit wrong. Of course, I don't want it to. And because after talking to both Jared and Broderick, it was decided that this would actually probably be a superior approach. And a lot of the reasons why people generally maybe don't use such an approach is because they maybe haven't thought about it. Broderick is very, very smart, and he knows kind of biology like the back of his hand. And he talked about how these processes of depletion and repletion take time. And he often thinks, and we can anecdotally agree, we see a lot of people who kind of look better the week after their show than the show day. And in fact, we can even refer to, and I don't know if this is, to be fair, a direct good comparison, but like AJ Morris at the moment is looking really good. He actually probably looks better than on his show day. Now, whether this is related to these extended processes and he's kind of like peaked late, as it were, who knows? But there is that to take into account. And I think the viewers can definitely relate. You hear stories of bodybuilders looking better the day after their show or days after their show.
I just was thinking about, because so many people, I think, put too much emphasis on the peak week itself. They think that this is the magic week that will actually get them peeled, which is obviously not the case. I mean, when you're still holding fluff, that won't disappear with some kind of sodium water manipulation strategy or something like that. And I think that they are always looking then for that magic peak week protocol. And if that actually causes you to be more stressed out, in the end, you can actually look worse simply because you're stressed. And I mean, why not then take a conservative approach, only be like 90% perhaps peaked instead of aiming for that 100%, right? Because otherwise you can get spilled or looking spilled. Mm-hmm. Either because of stress or because you took it too far in terms of carbohydrate loading or something like that. And this is only something I wanted to mention with your peak week protocol, because it is fairly new to you. Everything is really just an experiment. Yeah. And we've discussed it here over the past days that I simply always remind you to simply trust the process. Now stick to the plan, and there's really nothing you can do now because you decided to actually run with that peak week protocol. And if you overthink things, then stress is accumulating in your body, making you actually look worse, and that starts this vicious cycle that you then look yourself in the mirror, think you're not looking ready, you're looking fluffed or anything like that. This causes additional stress, and in the end, perhaps the peak week in it for itself was just a big failure. And I think that, it is a more complex system now, but I think when you're really trusting the process, and I mean, Broderick, you mentioned it, he knows his stuff, he knows the human physiology, and I think that the approach itself is an experiment, but I think that when you're trusting the process, that this will result in a really good peak in it for itself.
Yeah, I think it is stressful because it's new. I think that's to be expected, and I think I completely agree. And this is why I completely agree that peak week is a small part of the puzzle, and that choosing at least a less stressful method is probably better. However, we are coaches ourselves. We do want to get that 1% difference for our clients, and I feel like it's my duty almost to trial such things that could have that slight beneficial impact to make sure that our clients at Revive Stronger have the best peaking protocols possible, because that's our duty as a coach, to try out new things and to make sure we get the best result possible. And whilst I could take the easy approach and be like, this would be less stressful, this would be more comfortable, I think I wouldn't get so much, like, part of doing contest prep for us guys, for you and me, it's not necessarily to win or to like get like trophies and like new followers on Instagram and new clients. It's to learn.
All about the followers.
It's to learn. This whole process, I've learned so much, and this is another learning curve. Like, can I survive this peak week? Is it going to provide better results? Because in actuality, I think the first week, it's going to be quite stressful because food's going to be low, all of this sort of stuff. I'm going to be looking worse because I'm holding on to so much water, so much from all the sodium, and it's going to suck. My sleep's not going to be great because I'm going to be peeing through the night, which I have been anyway. But the next week, and this is what Broderick said, he was like, a lot of people, when they do these rapid backload or they do these backload approaches, they come into their show day and they're actually not feeling that great. He was like, you're going to have been on high carbs from Saturday, a week before the show. For an entire week, you'll have been on a good carbohydrate intake. You're going to be like feeling $1 million. Like, you'll feel really confident, really, really good on stage because I'll be so glycogen replenished by then. So that element excites me, the fact that I will feel so good.
And just jump in there. I had a look, or I listened to your consultation just to give you, the audience, some kind of perspective that I know what you've been talking about and discussing together in the roundtable with Jared and Broderick, and it was so fucking interesting. And it was also funny because when the carb topic came up, Jared was first like a little bit skeptical about the amount of carbs over the entire days, because how many carbs are you taking in over the next days then?
Roderick likes a carb load to start at 10 to 15 times your body weight in kilos, and he thinks the 15 is like from a biological standpoint, from someone's completely depleted, would be fine. So we're going with 10. So that's like 750 grams of carbs basically on first day, and then it tapers down by like 20% each day to normal intake before the show.
Yeah, and I mean, Jerry was already like, well, this seems like a lot of carbs spread over a lot of days. And it was funny, but then it went back and forth, and there was a really good reasoning behind it. And I think that Broderick has made a really good explanation. And it is like you said, I mean, this is an experiment. And I think that we as a coach, we are the ones who need to be those kind of, I hate the term for it, but quote unquote pioneers who step into new territories, try to experiment and find new ways actually. And this isn't anything else what the big bodybuilders back in the days did. The big bros, right? They try to experiment and see what was working for them without any science backing it up. And this is also something that we always need to keep in mind, right? There now, with a kind of dichotomy with the science-based crowd, it's like, okay, we have the study, and if there's not a study that supports it, we need to throw everything away. But when kept in mind that the bodybuilders who step on stage, or the pros who step on stage, those are really the outliers. Most of the studies really don't apply to, and those are the ones who are actually in the position who need or who are responsible to actually try new things and see for themselves, okay, I don't have a study to back it up, but it's simply like I need to try it to see if it works or not. And this is how we then get into new territories and see, okay, is this something that actually works and also is applicable for other people out there? And then after a while, most of the time, it gets then studied somewhere in the future.
Mm-hmm. And I think it was less scary to me because when I look at it, it very much looks like a traditional, I call it traditional to us naturals who look on bodybuilding.com and see Lane Norton's peak week, in which he does a front load, in which he starts on the Saturday and he starts high and then tapers down through I think it's on the Saturday. He starts high in the start of the week, tapers down, and then comes back up towards the end of the week, which is a traditional kind of front-loading approach. And when you hear that, it's like, so he's starting high, coming down low, and then starting high again. And that's why do you have to come back up with carbs? It's because you didn't carb up high enough at the start. Surely that's the only reason why. So with Broderick's approach, it's like you start very high and you just taper down so you look pretty much bang on the money on show day. And kind of it makes complete sense to me. And I also like the fact that with the approach I'm taking with Broderick, I mean, you hear this all the time on show day, people shoveling in carbs. Like they're like, oh, I need more carbs. Like, oh, I ate like 1,000 grams of carbs on my show day. It's like, why didn't you just like do that earlier in the week so you had that glycogen? This is just me thinking about things, and it's making me feel better about the approach, because it's like, well, Broderick was like, well, you're going to be full of glycogen, you don't need anything more on show day, just eat some nibbles to stay like full, have some sodium before you step on stage, go and rock it, and then you get like, you're done. You don't need to. I think that is really stress free, because you've Friday night before the show, you've done everything. You wake up Saturday, you're the complete package. All you have to do is go up and show off, like, and perform. I think you don't have to worry about, I have to eat this in 2 hours, this in 2 hours, this in 2 hours. That I like.
I do agree to some extent, but I also think that as with so many other things, it really comes down to the person itself, to the individual, like the mentality behind it. Because now this is an approach, you listen to Broderick and the reasoning behind it, and you're trusting the process because of that. But when we take, for example, methods from Cliff Wilson, the rapid backload, like, people know that it has worked for other people, and this is why they trust this approach, right? I could imagine that if it were new, like like an experiment. I think that Cliff even touched on it at some podcast where he said that in the beginning, when he wanted to experiment with it, many of his athletes weren't really feeling comfortable with that approach, which is normal, right? And then this causes stress. But I think both methods, or there are different approaches to the peak week, and I think that all has their place. But then it really comes down to the individual itself, what either, first and foremost, works for them physiologically, but also psychologically. Because again, it could look perfect on paper for this individual, but when this causes them to be more stressed out and then only give them kind of 90% of the peak week, can I say performance?
Yeah.
Or the peak week look, perhaps the less stressful approach, which wouldn't look as perfect on paper, is a better approach because it gives them like 95% of the performance look, right? So I do agree to some extent with you, what you're saying, that this approach seems really good, but I also see the reasoning behind a rapid backload, for example. And I mean, let's face it, we have plenty of people out there where we can see that it is a good approach as well, but also a complicated one.
Yeah, I think because this approach that we're taking is extended, a lot of the complications get removed. So things like I don't need to worry about potassium to sodium, like concentrations, things like this, because it's an extended period of time. So like the glycogen replenishment won't be impacted because it's extended, which is nice because I know with the rapid backload, you have to be quite careful about your carbohydrate sources and things like that. I also like the fact that with the front load approach, you've got the ability to assess the physique through the week and make adjustments. So if you need to burn off some extra glycogen, you can. With the rapid backload, I know you can practice these things, but whenever you do practice them, it's never under the same conditions. It's never the same conditions. Whatever you try and do, you can't guarantee the stress levels are going to be the same. You can't. The training's different. You're depleting beforehand. You're not often doing that at other occasions. So I think sometimes when people say, "Oh, you have to practice your peak week beforehand," it's kind of like, but you can't ever truly practice a peak week unless it is your peak week. And so the reason I think the front load's quite cool is because you're kind of taking that, you're removing the fact that you need to practice it because you've got the time. So you've got that front load and then you've got the time for it to kind of work its way out through the week. So yeah, I like that element. But yeah, to get back onto, I think we're 22 minutes in and I can feel us kind of talking probably too much about just the peak week. And we probably
because it's so interesting, actually.
It's very interesting. Oh. And if people do have questions about it and things like that, then let us know. I will be vlogging it. So this week I'm going to kind of whack out my camera like through the week as I train and stuff, try and get some footage. I'll probably film on my phone for some of my training because it's easier to get that out in the gym and the quality is not too bad. But anyway, I'll be vlogging it so you can see and I'll talk through everything. I need to even recap over how the first day went. And that, so yeah, people will have that information. I just thought I'd talk a bit more about the digging period and how we talked about how you really brought up to me. And I was kind of like a bit complainy probably to Pascal like last week saying how it's getting quite hard and like blah, blah, blah. And he was like, but be proud of the fact that you set and periodize and plan so far in advance that you're only feeling bad 3 weeks out. Whereas, what did you feel in 2014 when you peaked, or when you hear about other people who are like doing their prep, they feel bad 10 weeks out,
like 12 weeks of suffering, really bad, right? I mean,
yeah. And like, I feel low energy. I haven't felt excessive hunger. I haven't felt excessive irritability. I haven't felt massive mood swings. It's all just been like I can feel it there now, like. I'm not really cold either, which is, again, a good sign. Like I'm getting colder. I can feel everything just kind of building up. But I think to an extent, that's a good sign. And Charlotte even said it to me. She was like, and I thought she'd be a bit upset by it because she's like, oh, I can remember this from last time. But she was like, Steve, this is probably a good sign because it means you're actually getting like, you're there. Like you're at that low body fat percentage that you need to be to like do really well. So yeah,
do you think
cool.
Sorry to interrupt you there, do you think, because you hear from competitors that it gets easier and easier every single time you're doing it, but I mean the difference between your first prep and your second prep now is I mean really night and day. And did you expect it to be that well actually, or were you kind of scared that it's kind of the same sensation like the last prep?
It's gone way better than I think I could have ever thought it could have gone. I think there's been it almost gone so well at times that I'd question. Like, I think I'd even said it to you that I'd questioned whether it was even working. Like I was just like, Pascal, I just feel like I'm doing a normal diet. What's wrong? Like I'm meant to be feeling like crap. Like I'm sure it's not working. Yeah, exactly. I think, yes, at times it's gone so well that it's actually stressed me out. So I'm excited for the next time I prep because I know how well it can go, and then I can embrace and enjoy the fact that it is going so well.
It's like going on a cruise then, the next time.
And then dig, because I think, like Alberto, I don't know if you saw Alberto's recent post on Instagram where he talked about kind of holding a reserve, and then there is a time eventually where you have to go all in and dig, because I think to get a body to under like the 6%, the 5% body fat, I don't think you can just keep doing what you've been doing. I think you almost have to go hard. Like you have to like almost shock the body in a sense, which is what we're doing this week with the depletion.
Which makes absolutely sense. When you really think about it, the human body is still this ancestry body, right? We are kind of those hunters and gatherers still. The body is only wanting to survive. And I mean, it really senses now that you are about to die. And of course, it's holding on to everything it possibly can. And I mean, the leaner you get, the harder it actually really gets to get rid of those small last bits of fat. And I think this isn't something someone like me can relate to, simply because I've never been to that kind of leanness. And this is another reason why I think with the thing of having a coach who went through the same thing, I'm kind of stuck between both sides, because I think that it's not necessary, but I see some really good benefits in it, and especially in that regard, like going sub 6% perhaps, or sub 8, depending on the person itself and how lean they actually need to be. I think that this is then really beneficial to relate to the person and to know how they are actually feeling right now.
It's really hard because on paper you look, and like I look on paper, I'm like, I should, like my maintenance should be like 3,000 plus, easy. But I'm on like I'm on 2,000 calories and I'm barely like losing weight that quick. It's like, what? Why is that not happening? It's because the body adapts like a bitch. Like you're neat. People know neat, and they know like, oh, your step count can come down, or you move less, or you sit more, but you become more efficient. You become so much more efficient. You lean on stuff more. Every step you do burns less calories, every single one. So if you're doing 15,000 steps at the start of your prep, and now you're doing it at the end of your prep, it's basically the equivalent of probably like 10,000 or something. So you need to trickle everything up, because your body just gets so well adapted.
The thing is, it's funny that you've brought it up, because just a while back I was actually watching a presentation from James Krieger, all about NEAT, which was a fantastic presentation. I think from 1 year ago, 1.5 hours long, all about NEAT. We're like really getting into it with lots of studies showing all the adaptations going on. And what a question that popped up to my head is, you are getting more efficient, and also the fact that you're losing weight, right? I mean, you on a minute basis, you're carrying less weight with you. What I thought is, when you're prepping and when you're getting your NEAT in, would it make sense to actually wear a something like that, like with a 10 kilo vest or something.
I think so.
The whole time.
Or at least introduce it.
And I would totally, and I would be so curious to see how much of a difference that would actually make on your weight loss.
Yeah.
Like, just take it 8 weeks at a time. That every single time you don't need to wear it like from the morning time to the night time, especially when you're working in an office or something. Wouldn't be the best or coolest thing. But I mean, someone like us, we could wear it like 4 to 8 hours a day when we're going out for a walk and all that kind of stuff. And I would be really curious to see the impact on need and weight loss over the course of weeks when you're wearing a vest which weighs 10 kilos more and you're getting all your need in with that vest.
I think it would make it more predictable and you'd see less stalling in fat loss. Because, that's a good way of basically mitigating the adaptations and the efficiency that goes on. And the way we kind of probably do it at the moment is we increase our step count. Well, you could start wearing a weighted vest. You could add weight to that vest. It's actually funny you said that because yesterday I went for a long walk. I hadn't done that many steps and I had my backpack on with my laptop. And I was like, fuck me, this feels a lot harder than usual. I was like, is it just the backpack? It's like an extra 5 kilos or something from everything that was in there. It's like, probably is like that little bit more. So it's so hard. The body just does not want to relieve it. And I think this is why not just relying on like NEAT and stuff like that. And sometimes people's calories have to get extortionately low. Like they
especially
just do.
For females.
Yeah.
And that's simply a fact they need to swallow.
Yeah, I mean, you hear,
unfortunately,
calories can't come under 1,000. For a tiny female, they might have to come under 1,000 for a period of time to get as lean as they want to get.
In addition, with lots of cardio, for example. I mean, I've seen cases where you needed, or where the female needed to do 5 to 6 days of cardio as well, on top of that caloric deficit.
I mean, it's short term, obviously, relatively. But I mean, for someone who, if they're a female bodybuilder, they might have to get to that sort of extreme. If they're a bikini athlete, then hopefully not. But it's all relative to the kind of conditioning you need to get.
Totally. Also because the adaptations are way more severe when it comes to female adaptations and happen way quicker, unfortunately. So totally.
Awesome. Anything else we want to touch on, I guess?
I don't think that we were finished with the digging phase, because there was one more thing I wanted to actually get into, because we only touched on your physiology in terms of digging, but more so about the psychological effect. I mean, you said it yourself that you had kind of struggles, that you were doubting sometimes the process, but what in terms of your everyday life, when you're feeling normal? I mean, we always have times at the end of the day where the willpower is a little bit lower, or we are feeling a little bit fatigued. I'm not talking about that, those moments, or in the morning when we are feeling super fresh, or after coffee, for example, but more so in general. How are you feeling there, and how are you actually coping with the digging phase right now?
So my psychology for the kind of this digging period, I think it's an interesting one. Is the last week, I think this week's going to be a real test, because it's going to be really depleting. Last week was it wasn't too bad, and I think that's largely down to having routine and structure helps like nothing else. So I know exactly what I'm doing, like when I'm getting up, when I'm having my meals. I do get up, go for a walk. I've got my clients in the morning, get my client work done, go to the gym, come home. And then it's kind of, I've done my main stuff that I needed to get done for the day, which is a lifesaver. It is huge. I will say I find I get like dips and highs of energy. So first thing in the morning, I feel pretty fresh normally. I normally check in with Pascal and I tell him how I'm going and everything. And I do Steve on the Common around Instagram. And I feel fine. And then I have basically do my client updates. I feel pretty okay. I have a coffee with that, and that keeps me going. And then I have my first meal. And then after that first meal, I kind of hit a bit of a stump. I don't really want to do much. I put off going to the gym. I sit on my chair like that. Normally I'm standing, and then I'm sitting as I eat my food, and then I remain seated. And I actually, at that stage, I think a lot of people would just be like, sack off the gym. Don't bother going today, mate. Like, you're tired. Don't go. I do go. I get my pre-workout. I have that.
Checking the boxes.
Yeah, checking the boxes. And when I say pre-workout, most of the time I've only had one like caffeine-fueled pre-workout for the last 2 months or something. Something silly. So this week I'm sure there'll be a lot more of that. And actually I bought some monsters because I'm like, I know I'm gonna struggle otherwise. So yeah, I go to the gym, and like when I'm there, I'm warming up. It's feeling really shit, to be honest. Like I'm warming up, I'm not feeling it at all. There's a point at which I know people talk about, oh yeah, when you're doing cardio, it doesn't matter if it's long. You can listen to podcasts and it's all good. And there becomes a point at which I can't even concentrate on a podcast. I just put on music. I can't even, if I listen to Pascal's voicemail back to me on the way to the gym, I can't actually record one coherently back to him whilst I'm doing cardio. My brain just doesn't work. It doesn't want to. So whereas like at the start of prep, I wasn't really checking like how many calories I burn, and like it went really quick. I'm like checking every minute. Have I finished yet? Am I done yet? How many calories have I got left? Yeah. And I finish it and I'm like, oh, that was harder than I thought. And then I start getting into my working sets. And they actually normally go fine. I normally start getting a bit of second wind. It feels a little bit better. But my rest periods are becoming a bit ridiculous. Basically, it's a mental thing. I kind of switch off. I'm like, oh, I'm doing a set and then I'll rest. And I'm like, oh shit, like 3 minutes have gone. Like I better get out this other like next set, and then I do it, and I'm like, right, I can't let my rest go that long this time, and then I let a minute go, and then I do my set. I'm like, I didn't rest enough, so it's kind of like I'm almost thinking this week to time myself a little bit between rest periods or something to keep myself ticking over. But some of my sessions they're taking far too long. My efficiency in the gym is reduced. My efficiency in terms of kind of doing work is reduced. So like for Revive Stronger and like the stuff we're doing, I can't do as much. Like I feel like
that was to be expected, right? I mean, you prepared for that. Also, you communicated that to your clients as well, and everyone is actually aware of that. And this is what you are making out of it, and how you prepared yourself and everyone around you for that given time frame. I mean, that was to be expected. But the good thing, and I totally agree with you, is having a structure and a routine that helps massively. Because otherwise you get bored. Your mind will just jump on food, and revolve just around that one, which makes it really, I think, unnecessarily hard then. I think, keeping yourself busy is the best in such situations.
100%. I mean, I get back from the gym then, and I kind of get a bit of a second wind after I get some more food in me. And it's actually funny, you notice when you're this lean, and this is why nutrient timing becomes really important as you diet and as you get leaner, because I feel good after meals, and then after a few hours after that meal, I'm like dragging, and then I have a meal and I'm like, I feel quite good, and then I'm dragging, and then that kind of happens. And basically, it becomes a bit of as soon as I've finished my second workout, which again is hard to go and do, I lack motivation for that workout, and I'm kind of willing them to go as quickly as possible. I get home and then I'm like, relief, like so much relief. But then I've got like no energy, and poor Charlotte has got me in the evening kind of with fairly limited energy, and she knows all I want to do is eat a massive salad and watch some TV, some Netflix.
Love Island.
Love Island. Nah, that's finished ages ago, mate.
Okay, I have no idea, mate.
All about Homeland. Still land. Wait, Island, land, Homeland. We've just started watching Homeland, which is awesome. And then all I want to do is like watch Homeland eat a massive salad, have my frozen oats before bed, and then go to sleep at like 10:30. So we don't really get any good time together. And then it also lacks kind of time for chores and things like this. And I'm actually, I don't know if I should release this on air, but last night, basically, it was boiling hot. I was boiling hot, and I opened the window, I wanted to get it really wide open, but the blind was in the way. I was tired, and I ended up moving my arm, and I knocked Charlotte's plant over on the floor in the bedroom.
In the middle of the night.
Soil is everywhere. I was just like, Charlotte isn't here, fortunately. And I was just like, I'm not stressing about this now. I'm going back to sleep. But in my head now, I'm thinking, fuck, I've got all that soil to go and clear up. And it's just like,
oh, lovely.
Oh, like little things like that. I just don't even want to. You hear people.
Charlotte comes home and there's just massive mess everywhere, and you couldn't be bothered to actually fix it.
I'm gonna fix it, but our Hoover doesn't have a bag in it, and it's just little things like that, like keeping like facial hair under control, keeping your hair under control. You have to start shaving as well and exfoliating. Like, bodybuilding becomes increasingly more selfish as you get nearer and nearer to stage. And there's an element of me, and this is actually something I didn't like about powerlifting, was that all I could do in the gym, like the few months, but like the month or so before my meet, was squat, bench, deadlift. I got really bored of it. I was like, I want to do more. I want to do something else. And it's elements of that come into bodybuilding, and I embrace most of them, but there are some that I'm like, fuck me, I really could do with not being a bodybuilder right now.
But I mean, afterwards, after everything is over, you come to the realization that everything was worth it, hopefully, most of the time. And I think this is what you're then working for, not just doing the contest prep, but the last years, right, leading into it. Exactly.
And I want to be, and we want to be, contest prep coaches. And I think to go through all of this is a step that I want to help take to aid in our coaching ability for people, taking people to stage, whether that's partly down to lessons learned, but also I think people want coaches who have been there and done that to an extent. So I think that'll help us from a business perspective. So it is a lot of what I'm doing right now, I see is not just selfish for me and not just work for me, but it is work for Revive Stronger. It is work for our clients. Everything I think we do and experience as coaches is good for our clients.
And this is totally agree. And I think this is also a reason why I was holding on to my contest prep for that long.
Yeah.
Simply because it wasn't only about me, or I didn't only see my contest prep that I did it for myself. Because then I would have pulled the plug earlier, I guess.
Yeah.
But I knew that there was more to it than only doing it for myself or my own satisfaction. And totally agree on that one.
And even in regards to yours, I think we both took a lot away from your experience, and I hope the listeners did as well. So I don't think it was in any shape or form time wasted.
No, definitely not. But what's really hard right now is simply watching all your mates like AJ, Luke, you, and there are plenty of other competitors stepping on stage right now, and seeing them getting leaner and leaner from week to week, being really close to the show, or even have competed in their first shows, is just a real struggle, to be really honest. But then again, I mean, actually there's no rush, and I always need to remind myself about it. But still, you are always confronted with it. And right now, I want to make the most out of not dieting. So I'm gaining. I see myself gaining a little bit of fluff along the way, and of the other people around me are just getting leaner and leaner, right? And it is really hard, but I mean, that is basically the sport.
The grass is always greener on the other side, isn't it?
It is.
Awesome. Is that a good place to cap it?
Yeah, totally.
Cool.
Because we are starting to just ramble.
Well, I hope people have somewhat enjoyed me and Pascal's rambles and our tiredness. And I've actually had some really, really nice messages come through to me, mostly via Instagram, just like people supporting me. And I think some people are even sending me a daily message during my depletion week. Like I've got a couple of people who...
Yeah, mate, here's my dick.
Here's my support.
Have a good one.
No, it's literally like they're just yeah, it's just it keeps me going. I absolutely appreciate it. So everyone who sends me their dicks, keep doing that.
Yeah, love. I don't even know what to say on that one. Because there's always some truth to it, right?
Oh god. Officially, I've not been sent any penis pictures. That means I'm waiting for the first one. Who's going to be first? I actually really don't want any. Please do not send them.
So yeah, on that note, guys, thank you very much for listening. As always, leave a review over at iTunes, subscribe to the channel, leave a thumbs up here, leave a comment below if you want to. And if you have any questions or any topics in the future we want to or should talk about, please shoot a message to us over at Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, wherever. We are trying to actually cover it in the future, right?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. Cheers, guys. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.